Right. Shotgun? Check. Smoke grenades? Check. Rabid My Little Pony repellent? Double check. It's the 5 games for Doomsday Expeditions. So I'm here. Essen, day 0. Very exciting. With Rory from Hub Games.
How are you?
Are you exhausted yet? Everyone I've spoke to seems to be absolutely exhausted.
I think the act of getting here takes a lot out of you. So like, we've been trying to get prototypes ready for the last couple of weeks, like finalizing artwork for games, then traveling and then getting set up. So for a lot of people like Essen, tomorrow is like the start.
Right.
For us, it's like being the end of this big journey just to get here. So you kind of want to just like lie down, and then you go, oh no, we've got 4 more days to go. Yay!
And how do you get your stuff here? Do you drive over in a van, or do you get it air freighted, or?
It's a mixture. We usually try to have it delivered here first.
Right.
And so it just kind of, for us coming from Northern Ireland, it's a lot harder for us to say drive over with stuff. So having it shipped here and then delivered is just a lot easier. So, and then we fly over.
And you do, Hub Games do all the conventions, right?
There's always more that we could do.
All the major ones, though. How important is Essen for Hub Games in the sort of hierarchy of conventions?
It's interesting. It's like, since we changed from the Creativity Hub and Rory Story Cubes, Essen has become vital because we've kind of become indie gamers, designers again. And so getting games in front of people, giving them an opportunity to buy them, having a chance to see what's out there is vitally important to us as a company. This year we have a game with us, Flip Over Frog, which I spotted at Essen last year and licensed from a Japanese publisher.
But where do you think, it's interesting because if you look at your games, Hub Games is a new company, and it seems that the releases you've had have all been very different. Mm-hmm. So if I think about, Holding On, which is, very unique and very sort of unique in the world of gaming, not just mechanically, but in terms of focus and storyline. And then you have, which I guess is closest to your Euro game, although I think it's far from that, is Mega City. It has those Euro games sort of planning elements, and then I'm sat in front of your new game, which will be coming out of Gen Con, which is Prisma Arena, which is a skirmish combat game without dice, with card combos and all of this stuff. Do you think your games pitch better to a UK Games Expo audience, a Gen Con audience, an Essen audience?
I tried to make sure that I think one of the games speaks to each of those different audiences.
Right.
So Prisma Arena, I think, is very much a Gen Con audience.
Yeah.
I think Mega City is probably the Essen audience, and kind of UK as well. But Essen, because of the kind of Euro element to it, I think something like Flip Over Frog is perfect for like a UK audience, because as an event it brings a lot of families in as well. So theoretically it would work for Essen as well. But when we do think about the games and their launch date, we try to think about the timing of that and who's a really suitable audience for that game, who's going to get excited to know it's coming.
And do you think what are the different characters of the attendees at the different cons?
I think the thing that always struck me most about Essen, because that was like the first big event that I used to come to outside of Nuremberg, which is kind of business only, was the mix of families that were coming, like seeing the younger kids who were coming particularly on the Sunday as well, and the couples that were coming, whereas I think traditionally in the UK you were seeing more like kind of male gamers coming, and that's been wonderful to see change over the last couple of years. And I think UK Games Expo has done an incredible job. UK Games Expo feels really, in the most positive way, sort of non-gamery now to me. Yeah. And I think when I think of Gen Con, I think of like people who have money to spend on like bling and customizing their game. I find they're willing to pay more for stuff. Essen, people are very budget aware when they're here as well, and so we're very conscious of that, again, about the pricing of the games. We've to be much more sensitive, I think, about it coming to Essen than we would in the US, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I could have added $10 to the price of this game and people would still have bought it. But because we really value for money in our games, I think we sometimes shortchange ourselves at events like Gen Con.
I mean, surely it's not just about maximising profits, though. That's not what you're in it for primarily, is it?
I don't think we'd have released
I'm not a business person, you can see by that very naive statement.
So we actually have a phrase that myself and Anita use as the kind of co-owners of the company. We look at money as the fuel to enable us to do what we do.
Right.
So we're not there primarily to make money, but money gives us a freedom to take risks on something like holding on, or invest the time and money into getting like Prism Arena looking just right as well. If you're only pursuing the money, you wouldn't make those decisions. But the idea of it being fuel, it's like it keeps you going. It, for us, is a useful way to think about it.
I mean, I guess that the thing about money is that it allows you the freedom to be creative, right?
Yes. So
you don't have to sell yourself.
No, and I mean, I started life as a starving artist.
Right.
Well, not like life, but as my kind of adult life. And I used to think, well, you know what? It's okay, I'm not going to make money, and it's a decision I'm making. But that was only to protect myself from the fact that I wasn't going to be making any money as an artist. And so I was kind of justifying it by saying I'm choosing not to make money. And I realized over time, and particularly with Rory Story Cubes, was that, well, hang on, if we actually make money, it gives us freedom to do things and maybe donate to certain projects or do things that in the past we'd have to seek funding or investment for, whereas it gave us that freedom to say, we think this is worthwhile, so therefore we're going to do it, and we don't have to ask anyone else's permission. And that's kind of like a nice feeling to have.
And where does Hub Games stand now? I'm not going to ask you to print out your balance sheet or anything, but is it a company that sort of runs itself? Are you still putting equity into the company?
We're kind of finding our feet post Rory Story Cube, so we're very much, we've got this weird legacy of like the size and the success of Rory Story Cubes, but essentially on our balance sheet we're a startup company,
right?
And so we have to act and think like a startup company, and so for us, having spent like almost 9 years as a startup company, going back to that mindset is kind of a little bit tiring. But again, it enables us to put out games that we never had the time to do as the Creativity Hub either. So yeah, we're in startup mode, and with the glut of games that are out there and the amount of choice, our view is like we have to just stay standing, because you kind of feel like there's a shakedown coming of this market in general when you see what's happening with distributors and them consolidating their stock, and it's the few games who break through, do really, really well, but then there's a long tail.
I mean, do you feel like the bubble's going to burst? People have been talking about this for ages.
Yeah, I kind of go, this is my third year of talking about the bubble bursting. So
or is it a slow deflation?
I think we saw, like, I don't know if it was last year, a lot of like layoffs and like movements of people within the industry, particularly in the US.
Right.
I was seeing it, and I think that was an element of people kind of, refiguring things out. I mean, it's weird because this year at Essen we're seeing like an Indonesian section of gaming. We have a whole bunch of new Spanish distributors and Portuguese publishers coming. So there's like more people entering the market, which is great for gamers. I think the challenge is how they actually learn about it, and that's the challenge then within, I think, the review sphere, within the distributors and the marketing that happens. The challenge is how do we as publishers and designers actually let people know about our games.
And so I'm going to ask you this, and you can feel free not to answer it if you wish, but the sort of thing I've been sort of focused on when I'm ranting on Twitter, that's all I do on Twitter because that's all Twitter is for, is the current sort of Kickstarter thing, the refusal to allow the employees to unionize. And I'm not going to ask you where you stand on unions. What do you think is the responsibility of the people who use Kickstarter as consumers? Because I'm going back, I'm not going back and forth on this. I'm refusing to use Kickstarter at the moment because I'm a big fan of unions, basically. I mean, where do you stand on this?
So it's funny because I'm a lefty.
Yeah.
And I also think unions can be healthy and unhealthy in how they're run.
Right.
Because I've seen it with leaders of unions, and it almost becomes a form of like power gain as well. So I think in general, like politics and with unions and employers, a different kind of conversation and dialogue is really important, and that also requires, I think, a shift in our thoughts about capitalism and what that means and the value of that. So that's a much bigger conversation. It's like, I don't think capitalism is necessarily good or evil. I don't think unionization is good or evil. It's how it's applied is really important.
I mean, I think I slightly disagree with you. I think broadly speaking, unionization is good. I think there's corruption within everything, of course. But it seems the last 30 years, the legacy of the last 30 years is the erosion of labour law, right? And so you need unions to at least be able to approach management to some degree.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely, I think that the nature of like the dark side of capitalism is that maximizing of profit or gain at the expense of others.
Right.
And that comes at the expense of employees. Like, we don't have a union in our company because we look after our staff, because we kind of go, you're human beings, you work with us, therefore it's our responsibility to be considerate.
And I guess as a company that's so small, a sort of union would be slightly absurd. But I guess you wouldn't object to an employee joining a union.
No, it's the ethos of how we conduct business is what matters. And I think that as you create tiers of responsibility and management, the need for unionization becomes more important, because the issue is about not being heard.
Right.
And I think fundamentally, there's a great quote from a South American kind of activist who used to say, if a person or a group continues to be not heard, it will end in violence. Now, whether that's like verbal violence or physical violence, and I thought that was a really good expression. It's like, if you don't listen, it's like that frustration is going to build up in some shape or
That's why I
form.
shout a lot, because people don't have a choice but to hear me, and it prevents me from committing violence.
So, with regards to Kickstarter, I think that what I find the struggle there is, on the one hand, I would say, yes, like, if you support the workers and like value human life, that and that they are paid fairly and equitably, you don't use Kickstarter.
Right.
What that is competing with is the promise of a good deal.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think largely people are choosing.
Well, it's give me convenience or give me death, right?
Yeah, and then you rationalize that decision afterwards.
But of course, as well, I guess it's the clash that Kickstarter, like it or not, and I think there are what I would call sort of unethical uses of Kickstarter, but it is still funding dreams, no? Mm-hmm. And the problem, the Kickstarter's management decision is, because part of the beauty of Kickstarter, especially in board games, so many board game companies would not be around. So many great games would not be around because Kickstarter has offered that platform. Mm-hmm. And I wrote on one of my sort of late night rants, the CEO of Kickstarter came out and said, well, there's no reason for you to have a union, we treat you perfectly. To which I responded, well, a union is a preventative measure, right, to assure that one day you don't decide, we're going to strip all your benefits, right? And if you don't have negative intentions for the future, why would you not allow your employees to unionize, right?
So, I mean, I think labor law anyway in the US is different, and so markedly different from, particularly in Northern Ireland, because of the legacy of the Troubles, is like even extra layers of protection for employees. So the value of a union is probably even greater in North America because of how quickly you can just let people go as well. So I can see that value of it. It's funny because part of me always struggles with the idea of any kind of like ism, even with the unionization, because even unionizing with the best of intention can be undermined.
And I'm a very simple person, so I love an ism. So, just to finish up then, what do you want from Essen?
What do I want? I think
this year's Essen.
It's to sell out of Megacity Oceania, and flip over Frog. And that's mainly because, again, in this age, it really, for a company to kind of like survive and keep going, I think they need that one game that is getting like continuous reorders across multiple territories, and that buys you time to develop and bring out the next great game. So it would be a case of hopefully by the time anyone's listening to this, we will have sold out of Mega City Oceania, and we'll have achieved our goal.
Well, Rory, thank you very much.
Pleasure, as always.
Hub Games, Mike Fox.
You're still here.
Take 2. I plugged the mic into the wrong socket. So we were talking about...
Jokes about wrong holes, etc.
Indeed. So we were talking about, you're at Essen, you said you'd slept appallingly because you're nervous.
Yeah, always.
And so I asked you the question, I'm recapping what the listeners have missed through my ineptitude. So we're talking about, what happens as a designer when you're demoing games to the public and you can just sense that they don't like your game.
When the light goes out behind their eyes. It's like, I mean, it's the cliche that you only have like one chance to make that first impression. And that's the same thing is with games. You know, obviously not every game is for everybody. But you would hope that most people who at least, approach you have a vague interest in what you're potentially pushing, whether it's like, the story of a dying old man last year or the glorious positivity of a floating megacity off the coast of Australia this year. That was smooth. I'm quite impressed with myself considering I've been like 3 hours kept. But yeah, you can tell very much in that first couple of moments whether they're on the hook, whether they're biting or not. Whether they end up walking away with a copy of it because they bought it or not, it's regardless. My job is still to try and promote the game as much as possible, because hey, it might not be for them, but something might stick with them or something might click that goes, hey, actually, this could be good for somebody else. Even a demonstration that doesn't result in any, in somebody parting with their money is still beneficial. Whether it's helping me sort of like hone what I want to talk about when I'm talking to the next person, or whether, they end up walking away with a case of Megacity.
And I mean, how has the reception been for Megacity? Because I played it. Was that a prototype version I played at UK Games Expo?
That was a 99% there. Like, the tiles were still handmade at that point. But the pieces and everything were from the mold. I think you actually played with like the first set of molded pieces. Right. And it was, it went down beautifully there. Very, very well received there. And since then, we've just been traveling across. We went to Germany, we went to Dusseldorf for like a special Asmodee event, showing it to retailers and press there. We've been in America a couple of times, showing it off to people there. There's just a really positive reception, which is fantastic. Obviously, I'm not going to count chickens until they're all sold, but I'm at least positive. But there's always that sort of like that niggle in the back that makes you think, well, everybody's just lying, and this is just an elaborate joke.
I mean, is it released yet?
No, it's officially this weekend.
So this officially
comes
Essen
out.
Launch.
Yeah, comes out North America, comes out in the UK this weekend. Essen for here. Yeah, it's out now. This is it. So I've got no metrics I can work on apart from people going, "This is great. You're going to sell out." It's just like, don't say that. You're cursing me.
And so you haven't been, I guess. What do you see yourself as now? Are you a game designer? Are you a game developer? Are you a game publisher? Because, previously you were sort of, when you were at Game Salute, you were sort of factotum, head cook and bottle washer and all of that.
I think there's still a lot of that. I don't think I'm not a publisher. Obviously, like, Rory and Anita, they own the whole 9 yards. And I'm just sort of like, graciously allowed to live in the attic, and literally, that's where the office is now. We have like me and him are in the attic, and it's great.
So if Megacity goes well, are you going to demand stock in the company?
No, I wouldn't be that much of an ass. I'm very lucky. I'm super privileged. I'm not just saying that because he's here packing a game away next to me. I get to make games for a living, man. This is ridiculous. Like, if I'd spoken to like Michael like 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, and said, you are going to end up making like some pretty wild games. Let me tell you about this dude called Billy Kerr. And also, let me tell you about this positive future city building game. It's just like, you're talking rubbish, man. Talking foolishness. But it's like, this is amazing. I just want to keep on going as long as I can. And yeah, like I said, it's a huge privilege to be able to make games. And there is, again, I keep on going back to cliches, but it's like, oh, as long as one person likes it, that's all that matters. That doesn't work in this business.
Right.
You need thousands of people to like them. But because it's not just me, because it is also, Rory and Anita, because it is also, Winnie making amazing things, bringing in great artists and just a team who are just really now good at this thing. We're just really good at making this happen. We're all coming together to make like fantastic stuff. Yeah, my name's on the top of the box, along with Jordan Draper, of course. Beer delivery, is it? Nice.
We're allowed. This is a more casual show, so you're allowed to interrupt. I mean, how does it feel? Because I've written a book that I've not sent to anybody because I fear rejection more than anything. And I mean, how does it feel to have your name on a box, to be an author, to be a published author?
It's lovely. Which is probably the strongest word I can give it, because it's like, it's not just the fact that, hey, this is like an engine that you put together. Like, I'll go back to it. It is all the people who have come together to make this thing happen. Nothing in this place is the work of an individual. Nothing is the work of an individual. Everything is the coming together of people, which intrinsically is what gaming is about. The end result of gaming is bring people together. But also, to get there, you need to have artists with you. You need to have publishers. You need to have producers, all that stuff, all just working together to make the very best thing that we can make. And seeing that final result, like the first time, like a case of Holding On came into the office, first time a case of Megacity came into the office, there's this, this frisson of excitement. Because of course, it's something that you've done. It's something that you've made. Not everybody gets to leave a legacy behind them. And sure, my legacy is not exactly important when you compare it to the greats of humanity.
Well,
but to me, well, yeah, yours is obviously going to be this wondrous thing. But it's like, it's still something that people 10, 20, 50 years down the line, hey, maybe even further than that, might look back to and go, oh yeah, this is interesting. That's nice. Who is this dude?
So I'm asking people this over the weekend because it's been the hot topic over the last sort of couple of months. Where do you stand on the whole Kickstarter union thing? And what do you think our obligations are as consumers with regards to supporting a company that doesn't want unionization for its workers?
It's tough because, Kickstarter's the field of dreams, isn't it? It's the place you go to make it happen. It's where I put out my first couple of games, and back in those sort of like those Wild West days of, who knows, maybe you'll make a whole $10,000. Oh goodness me! Do you remember like the first time?
That sounds like an awful lot of money to me, if I'm honest.
I know, but it's like those early days when it's like something like Alien Frontiers pulled in like $20,000 or $30,000. Right. Everybody thought it goes, this is going to be the most any game will ever make on Kickstarter. And it's just like, let me tell you about the future, my friends. But it's rough because people. Okay, I am very much in favour of unions. You need protection. You need help. Like, everybody needs help. Everybody needs support. So the fact that like the Kickstarter management are coming up and saying, well, no, they don't need it. They're fine. We look after them. It's great. Everything's all right. It's not how the world works.
Rugs can get pulled, right?
Yeah, everything can be all right, but then maybe something isn't quite right, and maybe something for what's right for one person isn't right for everybody. I think they should push for unionization. They should keep going. Unfortunately, I also think that Kickstarter is so heavily ingrained in the world of board games now. I don't see it stopping. Like I know that you are no longer supporting like Kickstarter campaigns because that's because of your inherent belief that what they're doing is bad. I don't know if that's going to have an effect. I wish
mean, me
it would.
certainly not. But I mean, and this is the problem because it is that problem.
Yeah, unless somebody like Cool Mini or Not stepped up and said, "Do you know what? We ain't doing this."
Right.
But even then, in the grand scheme of things, Cool Mini or Not, even though they have pulled in several multi-million-dollar Kickstarter campaigns, they are a drop in the bucket compared to some rando dude who's made a cooler with a speaker in it.
Right.
Or, hey, we made this spinning top and it's made us $9.5 million or whatever. These are just like our world that we live in, our board games world. It seems huge to us when we're here at Essen. We've got halls filled with companies from all around the world. It's amazing. I did a little bit of a walkthrough earlier, just coming back from the novelty show, and like you've got Japan, you've got Korea, you've got Taiwan, you've got India, you've got just companies from everywhere. Iran, one of the Iranian companies, they managed to get through. It's fantastic, but we're so small. We're a tiny group, a tiny drop in a bucket. I wish we had more power. I wish that we could say, do you know what? We need to make Kickstarter realize that this is a good thing. I mean,
you can only exercise the power that you have, right?
This is true. I mean, there is on top of that as well, the inherent American fear of unions,
right?
Which is its own thing. There's the like the almost comedic vision of like the American Union. I ain't working blah 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 because I've already done my 27 minutes of work today. It's fine, whatever. That's not what a good union does.
That's not what a union does. I firmly believe that's plutocratic propaganda to discredit unions.
I don't know. I've dealt with some horrifying unions in the States.
Right.
Going to a certain, I won't name the convention, but going to a certain convention was very, very problematic because of what the union were doing. Like the union's active stranglehold on this convention center. They would not let you bring a single box onto the floor. They were the people who brought the boxes on. It's just like, I just need to get this box from my car to my booth. And it's just like, no, you have to pay us to move that for you. And that's, okay, how much is it going to cost? $120. To move a box less than 100 yards. And it's like, this is not a good union thing.
Right.
Yes, I realize that you want to protect your workers, but also you need to work within the confines of a sensible society.
Yeah.
A good union will protect their people, but also support the area within which it works. There are plenty of crappy ones out there. I just hope that eventually time will move and people will realize that, do you know what, actually it's kind of okay to look after your workers. It's fine. Please make that happen. It's going to be good. Sorry, that was really babbly. I do apologize.
Essen, day 0. I'm here with a depressingly sober Uli Blenneman of Spielworks Games.
Yes, it's really depressing, but it's a day where I have to work all time. So, yeah,
how does it feel for the first time in your life to actually do some work?
For a long time I did not that much manual work, but believe me, in my youth, my student times, I did everything manually. So I know how to work. But here it's different at Essen. So normally, last couple of years, I came to Blackfire to the booth set up, games are there, they are doing the sales. So it was very easy. Now it feels differently again, but Blackfire is with Asmodee, so this arrangement had to change.
So this is why you're no longer sharing the booth, because they're with Asmodee now?
Yes. And for me, this was a perfect thing. And but it had to end. I would be the only one that is not Asmodee in the whole cosmos, and it wouldn't be good for me, and they would probably think it's very strange.
Yeah. And so what are you wanting from Essen this year?
What I want from Essen?
Yeah.
Survive. Actually survive. This is my only goal that I'm having for Essen. This is the truth, because Essen overwhelms me for many years already, and it's too much going on at the same time. I don't want to sound strange, because I know that other people work very hard, but here I do not have press people. I do not have people who are doing the license. There are not any people who are looking for prototypes. I do everything.
Right.
So it's basically every 30 minutes that I'm sitting in my cabin. I'm seeing nothing here at the fair, but it's just for 4 days. But really, sometimes at the end of the day, I'm so spent. It's amazing. So I want to survive. Otherwise, I think Essen, for a small publisher, and Spielberg, as you know, is very small. There is not much happening. I have my pre-order, so that's fine. But actual sales they are always low at Essen for me. Because the bus is with very few other games. So Tapestry, of course, because Jamie is a master in marketing and generating a hype, and then Asmodee. The big guys, they are in the flashlight, and the rest is...
Do you think they've taken over Essen now? Or was Essen always like that?
No, it wasn't. Definitely, I was at each and every Essen from the very first time when it was in the school building. No, it was not. But we are in a capitalistic world. It's a natural way as it is. The big companies or the big ones get bigger and bigger, and the rest has to be very careful. But I think that the middle-sized companies, the ones who have 3 or 4 or 5 employees, they are under much more pressure than I am. I'm in my niche. Hopefully, I can continue as I am, but I see a real danger for others. So no, Essen has changed. Essen has changed in a big way, but this is the nature of the thing. Too many books, too many games, too many cars. We have too much of everything, and of course, a lot is not sold. And for 10 years, maybe a little bit more, we see at Essen that Essen is actually a dumping ground for cheap games.
Right.
So €5, €7, because most companies print too many and they have to get rid of these games. And Essen is a perfect place because people know this. They're coming. If they have €50, they get 5 games easily, and 5 good games. I'm not saying that these games are bad ones. So this has changed dramatically.
And so you're talking about capitalism, and I'm asking everyone this. You have been recently through Die Macher, Kickstarter adjacent, at least. What is your view on the whole Kickstarter wanting unionization, the management refusing to allow the staff to unionize, and sort of where do we stand as consumers in exercising our opinion on this?
Yes, I think this is a very good question. So I was going to Kickstarter a game next year, Tribune, so the next Kalle Schmiel game, and I was 100% certain that I'm doing it. And after I read this, I'm not that certain anymore. Because I really think it's a very bad decision, but I'm not sure how I will handle this. So I may do the Kickstarter or may not do the Kickstarter, but definitely I was certain before, and now I'm not that certain anymore.
Why are you thinking about going to Kickstarter? Spielworks isn't a company that has previously, right?
Yeah, because I want to see that there's a real demand for a game. You know, I license some games afterwards if there are other publishers after the 1,000 copies or 500 copies. But I want to see, let's say there is a next game, is there really 700 backers? Is it 1,000? Is it 1,500? I'm not thinking about record sales. It's not miniatures or it's not fancy stuff. It's standard Euro type games, which of course I love, but still it's not Kickstarter games per se. But I want to see the demand. But after I read this, I said, strange. Shall I really support them? But on the other hand, I'm doing so much strange stuff already. I'm flying around the world, business-wise. I'm doing this, and I don't know. Actually, I don't know. But at least it has forced me to think about this again. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, Uli Blenneman, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So here I am, Essen Day 1, Hall 4, and I'm with Joris from Splotter. I can't say
Splotterspellen.
Thank you, Splotterspellen. And so, firstly, how is your Essen so far?
Well, so far it went really well, in the sense that we have a new expansion for Food Chain, and we had a big line. We always have a big line at the beginning of the Thursday morning, but it's a lot of fun. Now everyone just buys the game first, and then we hear if they actually like it. So we will find out when we start testing if they like the game.
So a couple of questions. Firstly, why do you think everyone's here wanting the Splotter games? What is it? What's the success down to?
Well, I think we make games which are different from what most people do, in that they are long and complex, and there's a lot of depth to them. There's not necessarily so many rules, but there's a lot that can happen in our games. And we've been doing that for over 20 years. When we first started, everyone told us there's no market for this. And over time, and I guess the market is not very big, but if you like this type of games, then we make something that not many other people can provide.
And do you find that you have very devoted fans?
Oh yes.
Are they a bit weird?
Some people go to great lengths to get our games. We had someone who flew over from the United States just to do a playtest weekend with us in the Netherlands to playtest the new expansion. So I'm not saying it's weird, but it is very devoted.
And so you've got the expansion for Food Chain Magnet. Expansions isn't really your thing, right? You don't do them very much, or am I wrong?
No, we almost never do them. So we made an expansion long ago for Roads and Boats, and I didn't really want to make an expansion for Food Chain. And the thing is, lots of ideas kept popping up, because normally we make a game and then we sell it for like a year and then we go on to the next thing. But because Food Chain is a game that keeps on being demand for it and new players, so it stays top of mind with us. And we had a Korean edition of Food Chain that a Korean publisher wanted to make a Korean version. And they asked us, can you make some kind of nice rule that is Korean? And so we playtested a little thing for the Korean version with kimchi, and they loved it. And then we said, hey, it's actually quite cool to do this. And we also had a Japanese and a Chinese version come out, so we thought, oh, maybe we should have a Japanese rule and a Chinese rule. And then we went, okay, this is actually cool. And we started playtesting more ideas. So that's how this came about.
Is it burgers? Why Food Chain? Because even though all of your other games are really popular, they seem to be quite that devoted core of people, yet Food Chain Magnet seems to be the one that has really caught on in a wider range. Is it just the theme, or is there something else about it?
That's always very hard to answer. I think the theme really helps. I think what people tell me is that they feel that the theme and the mechanism are very well integrated, and that's not necessarily our strength. I think we normally work very much from the mechanism, and then the theme comes somewhere along the way. And I think with Food Chain, this somehow gelled in a very nice way. So it could very well be that this is the reason. I think another thing is that the game starts in a very simple way, so it takes a little bit of time before it becomes complex. So you kind of grow into the complexity. And with a game like The Great Zimbabwe, the game we made before this one, the complexity is there right from the first second. And this is too much for some players.
Although I feel, of all of your games, The Great Zimbabwe feels like the lightest
Do you?
to me.
Okay.
Yeah. I played Indonesia, I played Food Chain Magnate, I played Great Zimbabwe, I played Antiquity.
Yes.
And of those that I played, Great Zimbabwe feels, the most accessible.
Yes. But the Great Zimbabwe, I think there is the diversity of the strategies in Great Zimbabwe is very high compared to some of the other games. And what the Great Zimbabwe has is it has a kind of geographical component where you have to count how far things are, and there are people who cannot do that.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
And so some people literally cannot play Great Zimbabwe. They look at it and they say, okay, it's impossible for me to process this. And this is something we don't have with a game like Food Chain. There's no such step that is impossible for some people to process.
And there's so Zimbabwe and Antiquity share one thing, which when you play it you think, my God, that's super obvious, but you just don't see it anywhere else, and that's the ability to choose your own endgame condition.
Yes.
Was that one of the ideas when you had that? You thought, oh fuck, this is brilliant, or because I mean it really seems so simple, but it's really amazing.
Yeah, so the whole, if you look at almost all the Splotter games, there will be something funny about how it ends, which comes from game theory. You should not work too much towards an ending that is completely set from the beginning, because then you can kind of think back how to play your first turn. So almost all of our games have something funny there. And the Great Zimbabwe, one of the very first core ideas was this idea of you set your own level of how difficult you want to play it, you want to make it, and that's the same indeed in Antiquity, where this idea came a little bit later in the game, and you have not as many options as in Great Zimbabwe, but what you have there, and that is the same as in Zimbabwe, you have the option to be very dominant on the board and have a tough time winning, or you have the option to be much less dominant on the board, but you have an easier level to reach, and I think that makes for great gameplay, because it makes that the person who's the most dominant in the game is not necessarily the person winning. So you have at least two things which are cool to do.
And I've got this thing when I think about games. I think what's really important, why people love games, is because they feel an ownership over the game, and they feel that they've chosen how to win. And I guess Splotter games do that, right?
Yes. And that is something that, for instance, in Food Chain is very strongly the case. People have a very deep attachment to the company that they build. And when we first made Food Chain, we gave people a company that was already running. And then one of our playtesters actually said, oh, it would be so much nicer if we start from scratch. And so you have the first couple of turns where you are building your company, and that actually creates a strong emotional bond for people with what they are doing. And it means that people play the game, and then we've had multiple people say that they played the game, then the next night they dream about what they should have done differently and how they should run their company. And this type of ownership, or this type of getting into the game, is something that to me always felt very special in games, and that we also often are able to recreate from the game.
And so what next for Splotter? What do you have coming up? When do you have a new game coming out?
We hope to have one next year, but that's what we always say.
It's in development though, I guess.
Yeah, but what we're developing is we are always developing along mechanisms, and we have different ideas. And then actually we throw away lots of ideas because then we are quite far or a little bit far ahead, and then we decide that, it's not good enough, we're not going anywhere. And then and we need to have something that really jumps out, because a game in a way also, games somehow design themselves up to a certain point, so you come up with some ideas and then there is life in it, so it goes on to really develop, and you have the next idea and the next idea and the next idea, or you play it for a while and then you go, okay, but now we cannot kind of brute force that this becomes a good game,
right?
And then you have to kill it.
And do you feel, because kind of every game you publish is loved by everybody and everyone says it's amazing, Do you feel that pressure as a creator, or is it just I make to my own satisfaction, and when I'm satisfied, we can release the game?
We make for ourselves. I think there is where other people come in is that we make this type of game, so the long, heavy games. So I wouldn't mind designing sometimes some small, funny games, but it doesn't really suit Splotter. So if we have this type of ideas, we maybe use the mechanism in something bigger, but we don't make a game out of it. I think where there's pressure is more in terms of that I want each game to be really different from what we made before that. And I don't really know if that is what players want. Maybe players would be quite happy with something that uses the same type of mechanism as is in Food Chain Magnet with the cards, for instance. You make something else with these cards, but that I don't want to do. So the pressure is always on thinking about something that feels new to us, and that's not always easy.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
So I'm here, Essen, day 1, I believe. Feels like I've been here my entire life. With Travis from PSC, which is the Plastic Soldier company.
That's right, PSC Games, here we are.
So I got an email from you sort of 2 weeks ago saying, hi, I'm the new guy.
That's right.
So this is a brand new gig for you, right?
Absolutely. I think I'm 3 weeks in.
Wow.
Diving in at the deep end with Essen.
And so how has Essen been for you thus far?
It's fantastic. We're here with Blitzkrieg, we're here with Roman Roll, which is now on Kickstarter. People are interested, they're playing games, we're showing off what we've got. It's great. People are very friendly. I'm loving it.
And so how does someone become the sort of marketing guy for a board game company?
Oh gosh, it's a long and winding road. My background is more on the PR side of things, so public relations.
Okay, you can help me with this, because I've never known the difference.
Yeah, so
what's the difference between PR and marketing?
Okay, PR is basically anything unpaid. So
right.
that's getting someone else to say something nice about you. That's public relations. Marketing is I pay you money to say something nice about you.
Right.
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is PR.
Okay. You mean I'm not getting paid for this? That's outrageous.
There's been a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah, so I mean, were you a gamer before you got into this?
Yeah. I think that helps. I think in addition to having the background, professional background in marketing and communications, it helps to be a gamer, to play games, to dive into this space.
I mean, it's so for you, is Essen some sort of mecca as a sort of a con destination, or is that not a thing?
Oh yeah, I think so. Absolutely. If you're going to go to one, I think this is the one to do. And it's so close for us. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You have to go.
And so, how are you doing? How is the reception been? Because I mean, I love Paolo Mori, and when I saw Blitzkrieg was out by him, I was very excited. How's the reception been for the game?
Reception is really good. I think because it appeals to sort of two different groups. It appeals to those who are sort of war game, strategy game people to begin with, because they can get something done really quickly, and those that aren't, which is really the benefit of this game, is that it's the war game for the non-war gamer.
Right.
It gives you all those sort of strategic decisions boiled down into a really quick play experience. So we've seen teenagers playing it with their parents here, or we've seen the battle-hardened vets saddle up to the table and play a game too. So it's got pretty good appeal, I think.
Do grognards enjoy the game?
I think so. I think so far. Yeah.
Because they're the snobbiest group of people I've ever met.
Well, I would never disparage anyone who pops by our booth,
I would, but I've got friends who are awful grognards.
Okay.
And they turn up their nose at my games with European cities as titles.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it's a constant struggle. So I'd like to speak to you about something that's happening currently. It's in the current zeitgeist. And as a company who uses Kickstarter, it's interesting. There's this current furore over Kickstarter and the union situation, and there's a lot of renting of garments upon people like me, the sort of people who back Kickstarters, about should we endorse a company that seems to have questionable issues with regards to their staff? I mean, where does it stand with you as a publisher? Do you have any choice but to go on Kickstarter? Does Indiegogo or something like that drastically reduce your chance to be successful?
Yeah, I think what I can say about that is that it's a situation that we're definitely aware of and we're looking at it. And ultimately, our backers, our fans will tell us what's the right fit for them. So if we find that Kickstarter is no longer the right fit because something else has come along, then we'll explore that. But right now, Kickstarter is where it's at for us, for those types of projects.
And I mean, if people say to you, look, I love your games, but I can't use that platform for moral reasons, I mean, is that something you understand?
Yeah, we respect that. We haven't heard that so far. That hasn't been the case. We've got Roman Roll on Kickstarter now. There haven't been any comments about Kickstarter as a corporate entity and how that plays with us. But yeah, that's something that we wouldn't be surprised to hear.
And so, just you personally now in your new position, fresh off the boat, what do you want for PSC as a company, and what do you want for you as a individual?
Well, for me
forward?
Personally, I think it's really exciting to be joining the company when I am, because we've got all kinds of great games coming down the pipeline that are maybe a little unexpected. If you know Plastic Soldier Company and you know war games and miniatures, some of the things that we're doing now, like a game like Roman Roll, or some of the games that we'll be doing in the future, are a bit of a departure.
Will they all be grounded in sort of history?
No, I don't think necessarily. I think the uniting theme is really that strategic element of it. So whether that's a roll and write, or whether that's a strategic dudes on a map game, whatever it is, I think that's going to be the common theme that binds them all. But it's an exciting time to be joining the company. We've got a lot of growth potential, some cool things that are going to be happening. So what are my goals? I guess it's to ride that wave and to keep growing this company. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Travis, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So, Essen Day 1, I'm going to try this now, Piotr.
Exactly.
How was that?
Very good.
What's your surname?
Zhukovsky.
Piotr Zhukovsky of Hexy Studios,
Exactly.
which is a Warsaw-based publisher, yeah?
Yes.
So, is this your first Essen, or have you been coming here for a few years now?
It's the third time we're exhibiting with a booth, and we also were here before just as visitors. And since last year we have our first game ready. This year we came here with another new release and some more stuff coming up soon.
And so you're the founder of the company, or?
No. I'm just the media guy who talks to people like you.
And so, how is, for a publisher like you, how is Essen?
It's a very valuable experience, because if you're a small beginner company like we are, it's good to meet other people from other countries, and we treat this event as an opportunity to get many contacts that will probably bring fruit later on in the future.
And how big is Hexy Studio? How many employees?
We're around 10 people right now, but game publishing is not everything we do.
Right, okay.
We are broadly understood creative team, and we do a lot of stuff for other publishers. We make 3D models of miniatures, we make art, and our biggest area of specialty is video trailers.
Ah, okay.
So far we've made around, we worked on around 30 crowdfunding campaigns that we were engaged in this way or another. But what we do when we are not publishing games, we are creating animated video trailers for Kickstarter campaigns.
And so do you kickstart your own stuff, or?
Yeah, we did 2 Kickstarters for Starscraper's Cave-In, which was our first game ever, and it was delivered last year. And last year again we had a campaign for Hard City. Hard City is our second game, well, third, because it's still in production, but it will be out this year. And here to Essen we brought Slyville, but this game was only crowdfunded in Poland for the Polish edition, and the English edition is straight to retail release.
And so I'm asking everyone I'm interviewing here about this because a lot of people are talking about it. And this is the whole sort of Kickstarter union thing, that Kickstarter are not allowing the staff to have a union and things like this. And so I'm asking publishers and I'm asking designers, because a lot of people are asking the question, what do I do? Should I back Kickstarters now? Because, you know, I feel bad about the way they're treating their workers. I mean, where does a publisher stand on this? Because is it the only option that small publishers have to bring games to market?
Maybe not the only one, but definitely one of the major.
Right.
And the problem is that Kickstarter did and is constantly doing a lot for small publishers because of its audience. Even if you're a small company and even if it's your first game, when you are on Kickstarter, you will be exposed to like thousands of views.
Right.
So personally, I don't have a strong opinion about this whole trade situation because I see both sides.
Right.
I see both sides, and I'm completely fine with people who are saying I won't be backing Kickstarters any longer because this doesn't go well with my political views. But for content creators, because it's not only for publishers, it's for everyone in the industry.
Yeah.
If they continue using Kickstarter because this is their main way to do it, I'm fine with that too.
Right.
And although we would like to switch to a straight to retail model, we cannot exclude the possibility that we'll be doing Kickstarters in the future.
I mean, how do you feel about bigger established companies going to Kickstarter?
I don't know if a publisher is in a position to comment on what other publishers do.
That's a very diplomatic answer.
I know that there are companies that go on Kickstarter even if they don't need to. But if people still back them, that's okay. Because crowdfunding is all about the people who back the projects.
Right.
And if they want to back them, feel free to do that.
So why was Slyville straight to retail and not Kickstarted?
Slyville wasn't kickstarted, but it was crowdfunded in Poland.
Oh yeah.
The thing is that we were preparing a Polish edition for some time, and after it got funded on Zagram w to, which is a tabletop gaming only Kickstarter site, crowdfunding site in Poland. It's exclusively dedicated to games, and after it funded there, we thought that it would be a good idea to actually show it to the international audience, but we were in a rush. Simply, if you're preparing a Kickstarter campaign, you need to plan like months, if not years ahead.
Yeah.
And we really wanted this game to be in Essen this year, so we skipped the Kickstarter thing and we talked to a few distributors. We knew that there would be a demand for the game, so the choice was simple to make.
And so Essen is about, for you, selling games, or is it about getting in contact with distributors and other people who might want to license your designs, that sort of thing?
It's both. It's
right.
both because we have a small booth. We only have 2 demo tables. We sell some games, obviously, but a very, very important thing here in Essen, and it's a piece of advice for everyone who is a small publisher coming here for the first time. Book your meetings ahead of time.
Right.
And meet as many distributors and co-publishers as possible, because this is sometimes it's much more valuable than direct sales at the show.
Right. Well, Piotr, what's your surname again?
Żuchowski.
Żuchowski. Thank you.
Not K, but with H.
Żuchowski.
Yeah, perfect.
I speak German. They have something like that in German. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much.
So it's Essen's day.
Hello.
Day one, I guess. It feels like forever since I arrived. And I'm at the Deutsche Spiel Prize ceremony, watching a lot of very attractive people eat food. And I'm here with the hottest new kid on the block, Ella Ampongen.
I'm not crying, I'm crying.
For some reason, she's in absolute tears at the moment. It could be that she's been sat next to me for the last hour.
But also, I live my dork nightmare. I tripped.
What is your dork? You did. So for people, this is an audio medium, so I'm going to have to describe it. So Ella felt that she should be doing her journalistic duty and taking pictures of people when they were on stage.
Yes.
So
what I did was I did my duty.
Yeah.
I went to the stage and I tripped in
you
front
did.
of it. It was loud. It was loud.
Well, I didn't hear anything.
You just saw me go down.
All I did was looking at the stage, and then at the corner of my eye, I just saw someone fall over. I thought, which fucking nerd has fallen over? And then I just saw Ella getting up, going, oh God, what have I done? And she's usually so graceful, which is what makes it. Now, please don't be offended when I say this. It's what makes it double funny.
I don't know what happened. I was just walking and then I fell.
Well, earlier when we were talking, you said you really have a problem with contact lenses.
No.
Blame the contact lenses. That's what I would do.
And the thing is, my knee hurts now.
Where did you bang your knee? Did you bang it on the table or something?
Just one knee fell down. I fell, my whole weight went down on my right knee.
Well, look, think of it this way.
I want the earth to eat me. This is what I want to happen right now.
And we're sat next to...
No, but this always happens when there's a formal event. It's like I'm out of my element, and something wrong always happens.
And we're sat next to... Sorry, what's your name?
Katarina.
Katarina Sucha. Do you run the company with Vladimir?
Yeah.
And they publish Underwater Cities and Vladimir designed Last Will. How funny was Ella falling over?
It was wonderful. Really.
So the people who publish Underwater Cities think that was a wonderful thing. So you brought joy to people.
I know.
So how would you appraise?
That's the only.
How would you appraise the ceremony?
It was a great ceremony until up to the point where I fell down.
So you're fluent in many
I think
languages.
it's karma. I think it's karma.
So you speak what? English fluently?
Yes.
Filipino?
Tagalog.
Is that the language of?
Yeah, Tagalog, because there are
Tagalog?
different dialects in the Philippines.
Do you speak other Filipino languages?
No, that was it.
Tagalog? And German?
No, not at all.
So how did you enjoy the speeches?
I had you translate a little bit, but most of the time I didn't understand anything.
What did you think about the mayor? I thought he was particularly
Oh, it's great. It's
energetic.
great. I love it. I love the big podiums with the big boxes.
Yeah.
It's great.
And so you said to me that life is absurd, I think you said?
Which was the example that I was trying to prove.
Yeah. I mean, is it weird that, you've been doing sort of board game media for, a year and a half or something?
Yes.
Is it weird that you're suddenly in a fairly insignificant German city falling over in front of the assembled world of board games?
I'm glad this happened now that I'm 43. I can, if I was 21, this would be the end of my life.
And you know what's depressing?
Yes.
I'm 42, And I think you look probably about 25 years younger than me.
Yeah. Are you 42?
Is this an Asian thing?
Yes, it is.
Do Asians age slower than other people?
They do.
Because you do look young.
But also, I take care of myself.
I'll take that as the...
Ben, I like that you're having joy in my grief. Thank you so much.
No, I think it's capturing the true spirit.
Thank you. I appreciate
Essen.
this.
You know, and when you're doing your stream
Tomorrow I'm going home. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm buying a ticket.
You've got loads of streams to do. When you're doing your stream tomorrow, anytime you feel slightly nervous,
I can't do anything anymore.
Think about this evening, and it'll make you feel better.
No, I can't.
So, Elan Pongen, thank you very much for being my co-host on this very informative Spiel thingy.
No, I can't. Yeah.
And as we leave, we see Ella being very lecherous over the woman who is sat on the table in front of us. Imagine that picture. So it's Essen Day 1, and I'm here at the Deutsche Spielpreis ceremony with the Mayor of Essen. Is that your correct title?
Yes, Lord Mayor. The Lord Mayor.
The Lord Mayor of Essen, who has just done a wonderful speech. So how important is the Spielmesse to Essen as the city?
We transform Essen into a huge playground. This unites the city with board games, social games and family games. They can be played and presented. And it's a wonderful atmosphere because it's a family event. And in Essen, we are enthusiastic hosts.
Finden wir als Essener, als Gastgeber sehr schön.
And so how important are games to Germany and German culture and German family, and how many children have been brought up on German games?
It's no question that from childhood to adulthood, people start playing role-playing games, social games and board games and carry them through their entire lives. Everyone has a drawer or a cupboard that they can fish out a game, and games bring people together, and we need that in the world.
Ein Brettspiel bringt die Menschen zusammen. Und dafür brauchen wir viel, viel mehr in der Welt.
And do you yourself have a history of playing games?
Of course, role-playing games, board games, and also fantasy games, and the classics, Risks, and also card games.
And how exciting is it for you as the Lord Mayor of Essen to have so many international people coming into the city?
12,000 exhibitors from around the world as a big economic factor. Lots of people come and buy things, eat in restaurants, and we're very happy about this economic factor, and it's great that for the 37th time gamers are coming to Essen.
In Essen verankert gegangen ist. Vielen Dank. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good. So Essen Day 2, and I'm at the Draw Lab Entertainment booth, and I'm about to terribly mispronounce two people's names. So I'm here with Christos Saklis.
Yeah, correct.
How was that? Was that all right?
Yeah.
And Spiros Koronis.
Got this right in one.
Hey, come on now. And they are the designers of the new word game Alice in Wordland. And I read your designer diary on BGG the other day. So, what's the origin of the game?
You start, Spiros, with the origin of the idea. Okay, so Chris and I go way back. We have a long relationship starting by our shared love of board games. 3 years ago, we traveled together in Essen via car, and to spend the long hours on the road, we exchanged many ideas for board games. So Chris had an idea about a game with limited communication, and he offered to co-design it with me. I was honored to be partners with such a talented designer, and we started brainstorming. We ran into some problems. At first, we couldn't find some interesting tasks for the limited communication mechanic, and then we were bouncing around ideas, and I remembered an anime that I used to watch, where a plotline had a character with the power of forbidding certain letters of the alphabet, and with a penalty of anyone who made a mistake. So Chris found this idea very interesting, and we centered our design efforts around this central idea, which developed eventually into Alice in Wordland. So the basic idea of the game became that you have some forbidden letters, and you have to speak words guided by certain subjects under the pressure of time.
And so, you're a new designer. This is your first design, right?
For me, yes. Chris is already a veteran designer.
Chris is famous now. But how does it feel that first time when you get the box and you see your name on top? Is it weird? Is it exciting?
Well, to tell you the truth, it is a bit unreal. It's you just start playing around with a few ideas, and you have fun. You develop the game, but I didn't imagine that it would come to this. I am not a very confident person when it comes to design, especially. So as long as I was having fun, it was enough for me. And seeing it like this become a reality with such gorgeous art and components, and right now at the fair, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
So Chris, you designed When I Dream. I mean, were you surprised at how popular it became? Because it got picked up by, who was it? By Repos, was it?
Repos, yes.
For sort of world distribution and all that sort of stuff. Were you surprised that it was so popular?
Yeah, from low to high in a very short amount of time. I believe that I was lucky, but the game was also good enough for Repos to pick up. It really blew up my mind. I was too excited for this. I was invited to be with them to Cannes, to many conventions, and the game went really well. Very happy for this.
Are you a millionaire now?
No, I'm not a millionaire. You can't be so easy a millionaire. Even the higher names of the board game design, they needed a lot of time to quit their day job to do this. Because I had the chance to sit and talk with them.
Yeah. So both of you have day jobs, right?
Yes.
What are they? What do you do in the real world?
Well, I'm in the military. I work for the Navy. I travel a lot. So
what do you do in the Navy?
I'm in the communications, Morse code, but in the with the flashlights and on the radio, things like this. But on traveling, I have many hours to think, to imagine about board games. Not so much time to play, but to think. So it's easy for me to mostly design than play games.
Yeah. And you?
I'm a dentist.
You're a dentist?
Yes.
Wow.
So I took up board game design to finally do something that makes people happy.
So you are a millionaire then? There's a lot of money in those teeth.
Not in Greece as much, no. No, but we try our best.
And I mean, you've both got, you're not middle managers in an office doing something boring, you have proper jobs. I mean, so will design always be a hobby for you?
Yes, it's a very good hobby. We're also lucky that this hobby brings money back, because in most hobbies you give money.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. Even if we don't sell any copies of the Alice, we don't wish to happen this, but if this happens, we will be also very happy to be here, to meet people, to be interviewed by you, to everything that comes along with the board game design and the industry in general.
I agree. Yes, like you said, we have day jobs. We love them very much. I try to keep myself grounded, like Chris said very correctly. Board game design is a hard business to break through and hard to make money from to the point of financial stability and independence. However, the most important part of us is that we're having fun designing the games, and any attention that we receive is just an added bonus. So for us, board game design as a hobby is its own reward.
Brilliant. Well, Chris and Spiros, thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. Essen, day
2.
I'm mean, it doesn't feel like day 2 to me.
Yeah, like 4th.
Yeah. So I'm here with Julia Klokova. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
I spend an entire life mispronouncing people's names. It's wonderful. Yeah, from Hobby World.
Yep.
Russia's biggest board game publisher.
That's true.
So, how has Essen been for you so far?
It has been a huge success.
Yeah?
Such a blast. Yeah, we have our wonderful new release called Deranged. Semi-cooperative survival adventure, and everybody's enjoying it so far.
And is it out here? Did it debuted at Gen Con, did it, or?
Yes, we pre-released it at Gen Con. We signed it for the US release with our US publisher partner. And it will be released at Gamma 2020.
Okay.
And now we're talking about the German release.
Very cool.
At the beginning of the next year as well. So I hope it will be a worldwide release at the beginning of the next year.
So for you, I mean, is it more about people, gamers, or is it more about doing business?
For me personally,
when you come to Essen,
it is all about the people. I enjoy this. I enjoy this atmosphere. I enjoy the surroundings. I mean, everything is so great. And sure, it's for business as well. We, as much as we love to share our games with customers, with players, we like sharing with publishers as well.
And like, so what's the gaming world like in Russia? So you're from Moscow, right?
Yes, we are based in Moscow.
I mean, is there a scene in Moscow? Are there lots of people, or is it sort of dispersed?
There is a scene, yeah. I would say that Moscow is like a center of Russia, in all senses. So, and the board game community actually is growing and evolving throughout Russia.
Right.
And it is growing, and we are excited about it because there are great games by Russian game designers. We always look forward to the Russian game designs as well as the worldwide ones. So it is great that we are expanding.
And are you from Moscow yourself?
I am not.
Where are you from originally then?
I am Ukrainian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been speaking to everyone about this. I've been watching Chernobyl recently. Have you watched it?
Yes.
Oh my
TV
God.
is just awesome. I was thrilled by it. I just couldn't breathe at the end.
Well, I'm only at episode 3.
Oh, then no spoilers.
Because I watch it and then I think, I need 2 days before I can watch another episode, you know?
Yes, it's just too stressful. It just makes you freeze for a moment and think, what are we going? What are we doing? Where are we going? And
it's crazy. Chernobyl was still running until 2001. They shut the last reactor down in 2001. That's insane. And so how is it for a Ukrainian in Russia? How did you end up in Russia?
Oh, that's a long story.
So are you a native Ukrainian speaker or a native Russian speaker?
Native Russian speaker.
Yeah.
So I moved to Russia because I married a man.
Ah. And you met them in Ukraine?
By internet.
Wow.
On internet, yeah. And he reached out to me and everything worked out.
Wow. And so I mean, what's Russia like as a city to live in? Is it really busy, loud, noisy, hectic?
You mean Moscow?
Sorry, did I say? Yeah, Moscow. Russia's
Moscow,
the country.
Moscow is another country. You know? It is great. It is being modernized, and everything is just growing bigger, and it's very, very European. I would say that it feels European. You can visit the cities. It's very safe. It's cheap.
Oh, is it cheap?
Right now it's cheap because of the difference in euros and the national Russian currency. So it's really cheap to go there. It's really tasty. There is a lot to see. So I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what next for Hobby World then? What happens in the next year?
So we have recently purchased Magellan, Mossigra, another Russian board game company.
Okay.
And now we are the largest publisher, manufacturer, developer of board games. So Hobby World is evolving too. And we are growing and we're proud of it. we are aiming at several new releases next year, and they are going to be really powerful, really strong ones, and we look forward to that. But in total, we are just trying to get as many people into board game community and into our welcoming hands as we can.
Brilliant. Well, Julia, I'm going to try this again. Klokova?
Yes, perfect.
I speak Russian now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's Essen day. What day is this?
Day 3.
It feels like
day 17.
It's incredible. And I'm here with Alessandro Pra.
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
Of Horrible Games.
Now Horrible Guild. We changed our name.
Oh, when did you change the name?
Like 3 days ago, so it's okay,
okay.
if you didn't know that. Now we are changed to Horrible Guild.
So why? Why the name change?
There are several reasons why. The main one is that with games like Simulo, which is one of the games we're releasing this year, we are going to reach new markets, mass market retailers, where especially in the United States, we've been told many times over the years actually that our name could be a little bit problematic because Horrible Games means for them really bad games.
Oh, you mean sort of negative things?
Yeah, very
negative.
Not really sexy, but also just
violent and
even just plainly bad games.
Yeah.
And I think until now, most of the people in our usual hobby market world understood that it's a joke.
Yeah.
But if you imagine some random person that only plays, I don't know, Uno and those simple games, and sees on a shelf in a very big store a game by Horrible Games, that may be creating some confusing thoughts.
Yeah.
So eventually we decided it may be a good idea to change the name. Also after 5 years we already wanted to change the logo a little bit. So we went with Horrible Guild because we wanted to keep HG as our initials. And the word guild makes sense, we think, because when we started it was just me and Lorenzo, the founder of the company. Now we are 7 and many of us in the meantime have families now, and they all support us. So it makes sense as a word because a guild is a group of people with the same goal, working together with the same goal. So we liked it and we went for it.
And so how has, I'll use the name now, Horrible Guild, changed since, because I spoke to you 5 years ago. I can't remember, what was the first game you had here?
Comics.
That's right. And so how has it changed sort of for you in your role, but also sort of the development of the company, and how has it grown, and what directions have you gone in that are different to previously?
Yeah, well, the direction is more or less the same. We always try to make games that can be fun for everyone in general, but I think the bigger change has been that we also started to make more complex games, like Alone, for example, and this year we have The King's Dilemma, which is our first legacy game, and it's a very big game. It took a lot of work. And I think it was the most difficult development we have ever made until now, because it's a legacy game, and that's difficult because of the many things that you have to do differently from a regular game. Then it's also a narrative game, and it basically contains a novel. There's 60,000 words of text only in the narrative parts, without counting rule book and all the regular stuff. So there was a lot of work, but we think that now that the other change is that we increased our numbers, so now we are 7, and we wanted to release more games per year because we used to only release 1. So internally we had to change a bit the way in which we work, because we have to be more precise and make more detailed plans in advance, because when you only have one game, you feel at what point you are, and you know which is the deadline, and you can make it work in a more elastic way.
Yeah.
When you have more games in a pipeline, you have to be much more. You have to stick to the plan much more, and it took us a couple of years to adjust to the new process. Yes. But our philosophy in creating games is not changed that much.
So you have 7 people.
Yes.
What do they do? So what are the roles then in the company?
Well, we have 2 lead game designers. One is Lorenzo, as it was from the beginning. Also, now we have since 2016 we also have Hjalmar in our.
So ranks. He was the designer of Railroad Inc. and
they designed it together.
Castle.
Yes, Railroad Inc. and Dragon Castle. And Hjalmar also did photosynthesis before he joined us.
Oh, that's right, of course.
And Hjalmar and Lorenzo also did The King's Dilemma, while Similo, our other new release, is an old game by Hjalmar and 2 other Italian designers, Pierluca Zizzi and Martino Chiacchiera.
Pierluca Zizzi did Asgard, I believe.
And Barbarians recently. It was a Kickstarter.
And also, what's the bag builder one?
I don't remember. Sorry. They are the creative team, let's say. Then we have a graphic artist. I am the copywriter, mainly. I do a lot of stuff because I'm there from the beginning, so I kind of have to, like the factotum, we say. But my main thing is that I write all the text that you see in our games. I have to go through them if I don't write them from the beginning.
And do you write them in Italian or do you write them in English? You always write in English?
Yes, we learned very fast when we started back in the Cranio Creations days that working in Italian made no sense, because then we had to show our games to our international partners. And so every time we made changes to the game, we had to translate them again. So at one point we decided we just work in English directly.
And is that challenging for you? Or?
No, for me personally not, because I had very good teachers at school. So English is not an issue for me, and I improved very much over the years. Also, we work with professional native speaking English proofreader. My English is good, but not publishing good. So no, it's not difficult. It can become a little bit more difficult in the testing stages, because not in Italy, not everyone is very well versed in English. At this point, we have hope for the next generation, but my generation is 50-50. So often we have to translate the game while we test it to the people who doesn't speak English very well. But apart from that, it's not an issue at all.
And so you've also gone into then, I guess it'll be next year, but a licensed game. So you're doing Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes, Vampire the Masquerade Vendetta is our first licensed game. And it actually it is designed by Bruno Faidutti, which is quite famous, and I think he was the original. The original idea was of Charlie Cleveland, the other designer. I think, I'm not sure, but I think so. And he is not very famous in the board gaming world, but he is the designer and owner of the company who published the very popular video game Subnautica. Maybe you heard of it. So he is also a very talented game designer, even if this is his first board game. And when Charlie showed it to us, it was simply a vampire-themed game without the Masquerade license. But he already had that in mind, and as soon as we saw it, we had that in mind. So there was this common interest. And so we approached Paradox, who now owns
so Paradox owns White Wolf.
Yes. And they were okay with us buying the license for this game, so we went for it. The game is a card game, and it gives you kind of the same experience you usually get from card games or living card games that you play 1 versus 1.
Right.
But this is a 3 to 5 players game.
Okay.
So it's competitive. And if you know a little bit the Vampire the Masquerade IP, you know that in this game there are many different vampire clans, each one with their own special vampiric magical abilities, powers. And this is also implemented in the game. Each player chooses one clan and takes the card deck of that clan.
Oh, very cool.
Each deck is themed around the powers of that clan in the role-playing game, and there is a sort of end-building mechanism. You have some starting cards that you always have, but then at each round, even from the beginning, you start drawing cards from your deck. You choose some to keep and you discard the others. Those that you discard will never be available again during this game. So you start, you try to create a strategy with your hand. Then maybe you see what the other players are doing. So for example, if I see you playing a really aggressive kind of gameplay, I may start to take from my deck and keep defensive cards to go against you.
Right.
The goal of the game is to take control of some other kind of cards. They are the allies. That they can be humans or vampires, and they are all influential figures, like I don't know, politicians, influencers, artists, that kind of people. This is because in the vampire world, these vampires are always deceptively fighting against each other to gain the control of the city they are in. In our case, it's Chicago. So there are locations on the table. At the beginning of each round, you place 1 or 2 allies on each one of them. Then the players can play their cards from their hands at these locations. Each card has a strength value, a special ability, and their effects apply in different points of the round. You can play them at a location, you can play them face up to show your intentions, and maybe you want to show how serious you are about it to deter the other players to go in that place. Or you can pay blood to play them face down and try to keep your metaphorical cards. Yes, you keep your secrets. You can also play additional blood to increase the power, the strength of your cards, but you have to be careful because the effects of the cards of the other players may have you lose blood, and if you run out of blood, you go into frenzy, which is another thing from the role-playing game. Basically, vampires without blood go a bit crazy and they cannot control the beast inside them. And so you will be forced to feed on one of your of the allies that you already acquired, and you will lose points. So you don't want that to happen, and so you have to be careful when you spend your blood. There is another layer of deception that happens during the game, because for each location, at one point, the players will do sort of like rock, paper, scissors moment, where making hand gestures, you will show if you want to stay and fight, or if you want to retreat. And you may do that as a kind of a bluff. So maybe I place a card in a location, I force the other players to spend resources there, but it was a bluff, and then I retreat, and I really spend my resources in another place. So there are a lot of mind games going on in the games and in the game, and you also have to try to deduce what the other players want to do during the round and between rounds when you increase your hand for the next round.
And so you think it really evokes the feeling of the RPG?
Yes, it's a part of it, because of course you can role play if you want. It makes always things fun in board games, but the game does not need that. But it recreates that kind of political deception that you try to be sneaky about your moves, and you want to take control of these influential figures. These cards are not only worth points, but they may also give you special abilities when you control them. So you feel like you have increased your network of allies that help you in your political schemes. So yes, that part of the role-playing game is really captured.
That's the bit about Vampire I really like.
Yes.
Everything just slightly under the surface, and you're pulling the strings. And I really like that aspect about it. So, where does Horrible Games go from here then? Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Well, we hope to be able to release even more games. Now our plans are to release like 2, 3, maybe 4 games each year. But if things keep going well, maybe we will be able to increase our numbers again and maybe release more games.
And with more sort of external designers too?
Yes, we started, we always cooperated also with external designers, but mainly we have always been developing our games internally.
Yeah.
But yes, one of the strategies to increase the number of games will also be, as in the case of Vampire the Masquerade Vendetta, to work with external designers. So yes.
And so will you be taking pitches? Is it possible to contact Horrible and say, I have a game I think will be perfect for you?
Yes, we have been accepting pitches for a while, but since we cannot, for now we only release a very limited amount of games, so we don't take many, and we have a lot, in this precise moment, we have a lot of projects, internal projects that we are working on right now. So, not to discourage anyone, but for 1 year and a half, I don't think we will be able to publish any game, even 2 years or something. So, if a good idea is good, we always want to have it, but at this moment we are very, very full of projects, so yes.
Excellent. Well, Alessandro Pra, thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
So here I am, Essen, day 3, I think, isn't it?
For me, it's day 5, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's day 5 too, but with the convention being over.
Yes, you're right.
I'm here with Bernd Keller, and you are, what is your role in Amigo Spieler?
I'm one of the editors here at Amigo.
So, when I think of Amigo, I think of really nice card games.
Yes.
But I've noticed that you just released Carnival of Monsters from Richard Garfield.
We did.
And I'm looking around this office now and there are bigger games. Is the model for Amigo changing? Or have you always kind of been that way?
Not necessarily. We have always been doing bigger games from time to time. I mean, our first game of the year was Elfenland back in 1998, and that was a big box.
Yeah.
We don't do that many big games, but from time to time, if the proper game shows up, we try to publish it.
Yeah.
We are not fixed on card games, but we do focus on them.
And so how long have you been with Amigo?
It is going to be 23 years by the end of the year.
So what changes have you seen in the German market? Because I think of one thing, when I first started coming to Essen, it was sort of unthinkable kind of for a German publisher to have a fantasy themed game or a sci-fi themed game, and that seems to have changed. So what sort of other changes, and has America affected the way you think about publishing?
I think it's not so much about the German market. It should, maybe we should try to see it globally. I think my first time in Essen was 1990, and Essen was completely different. We had like maybe 10, 15 big publishers, the German publishers, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And it's been getting easier and easier for smaller publishers to produce games in proper quality, because Ludofact and Cartamundi can do small print runs now. You don't have to sit in your living room and glue stuff together yourself in order to be able to sell it at your booth. So it's much more competition. But most of the competition focuses on games that we usually do not do, like gamers games, the proper Euro games, or Ameritrash. We don't focus on those. So I guess for us, the situation has changed in a bit or a while since we have more competition, but not so drastically as, for example, for publishers who focus on those gamers games. Because every mom and pop can now sit down and have a proper idea and try to realize the game themselves, where they wouldn't be able to do that 20 years ago.
Do you think that's affected the quality of games?
Quite often you see, for example, Kickstarter games. I'm a huge fan of Kickstarter myself. I backed quite a few projects. I have lots of games at home. I love games like Root, for example, or I just picked up my copy of 1824 at Lonnie and in the other hall the other day. But what I sometimes see is that, especially Kickstarter games, which are run by smaller, maybe some less experienced companies, especially the quality of the rules is sometimes sketchy. I know that our process, come up with rules, is very elaborate. There are lots of people involved, lots of steps in between to make sure to, best case, find every mistake as soon as possible and not print that. And smaller companies, especially Kickstarter companies, maybe don't have that time or resource or experience or whatever. I don't want to call the name, I don't want to name names, but a few months ago we were sitting at a private gaming convention, it's 5 guys renting a house playing the whole weekend, and we were playing one of those hyped Kickstarter things we were all looking forward to, and 2 hours in, everybody has his laptop open or a PDF of the rules and trying to find the right way to play this and that situation, and it kind of sucks.
Absolutely.
But it is the biggest part of my work as an editor, is to come up with proper rules. It is so difficult. So I can't really blame them. It's just that maybe a few of those companies who collect like millions of dollars in their Kickstarter campaign maybe
could hire an editor.
Maybe find the time to send it to some editor. There's lots of good editors. They are not with any company. They have their own company, self-employed, and offer that service. Just send them the rules, pay a few hours of their work, and maybe the rules will improve.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amigo is famous. You've worked a lot with Wolfgang Kramer. Carnival of Monsters is Richard Garfield.
Yes.
How important is the author of a game to the game's success?
You want to believe that it is totally important, but I guess again it depends on the type of game you publish. If you publish a gamer's game, then more people will buy it or notice it because of the name of the game designer. But for example, our best-selling game, for example, is Halligalli. That's a thing with the fruit and the bell in the middle. It's hilarious. But I do not believe that most of the customers we have even notice that there is a game designer on the top of the box, which we always do. So I think it depends on the type of game. Carnival of Monsters, for example, I think that Richard Garfield is on the box and invented the game is a huge impact. Because that opens doors, obviously. That is basically pretty much the only reason why we did the project in the first place. Because usually we wouldn't do games like Carnival of Monsters because they are a little bit more complex than what we usually do. But Richard is pretty much the man who made Amigo what it is today. Because we were lucky enough to be able to sell Magic in Germany for the first couple of years. I don't know exactly, but it should be something around 10 to 12 years. And that changed us as a company. I was originally hired to work for Magic. And then I went on parental leave, and then I came back in editing. That's already 12 years ago. But Amigo would have been a different company without the opportunity to be able to sell Magic. So Richard has a special place in our hearts. And I think it was 5 years ago. It was in Essen. I was coming back from the bathroom, and I noticed that our head of the booth is talking to some guy. Didn't recognize him at first, and he was obviously kind of like, he looked apologetic, like, nah. And then I heard like, nah, editing has no more meetings available. And then I looked at it, hey, there's Richard. Hey Richard, nice to see you again. What can I do for you? and the guy from our booth like, oh my God, was I about to send away Richard Garfield? Because he didn't recognize the guy. Richard is a nice, shy, very, very pleasant guy. And he's not like, hey, I'm Richard Garfield. I'm in the middle of the world or something. So we obviously found time for him. And that was when he presented the game to us. So we played it straight away, we loved it, and that's, well, now it's finally released.
I mean, in my review, what I talk about is the value for money in the game. And what I mean for that is you get a hell of a lot of game in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was really fabulous. So, you know, Amigo Spieler last year lost one of the legends of gaming, Uwe Mulder. And
we didn't really lose him.
No, I mean, he's still alive.
He's very much alive and kicking. He was here pretty much all over the show.
Right. I mean, sort of, and there's a lot of people who are listening to this who, you know, in the English-speaking world, who won't know who Uwe is.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's not a designer, but he's sort of beating heart of Amigo Spieler.
Yes.
And was responsible for bringing so many great games to the world. Sort of what has been his legacy, and what's it like working at Amigo without him now?
It's tough in a way. I know Uwe for like 22 years now, since I started working for Amigo, and Uwe is with Amigo, or has been with Amigo for like 25 year-ish. And when we were approaching his hey, I want to retire deadline, I went to my boss and said, like, guys, we need to start planning, because Uwe is going to retire.
Yeah.
And we need to be prepared for that. Uwe has been the face of Amigo editing. He shaped the Amigo line for literally decades.
I mean, what are some of the titles he's responsible for bringing into the world?
Bonanza. Zexnip was actually a year before him, but Bonanza, Wizard, Elfenland.
No thanks.
Everything after that was within his reign.
So any of those beautiful Amigo card games are in some part down to Uwe, right?
Yes, of course. It might have been that somebody else in my team was responsible for actually working on the project. At the moment, we are 4 guys working in editing.
Right.
And we distribute the projects so that every editor is responsible for one of them. But we obviously talk together. We always have been, and we still do use his experience.
Mm-hmm.
So he is not out of the picture.
Right.
I mean, he will always be an Amigo. And he always wants to be an Amigo.
Yeah.
So if he's in Essen, he's at this booth, and he always like, hey, we are hugging, and hey, good to see you. And he frequently visits the office. I guess that is going to be something that will happen rarer and rarer in the future, because he should really enjoy his retirement.
Sure.
He will never be really retired. But his daughter, I think she's in Australia at the moment. She's grown up, and his wife needs to work a few more years. And after that, I hope he's still fit enough to travel the world and have the opportunity to do whatever he likes. We all love him. We miss him. No, it has been fun working with him, and but you got to move on. I mean, what can I do? That's why we basically hired 2 new guys, and have an open position at the moment. Just saying. So if you're interested in joining our team, give me a call. I mean, life goes on.
Yeah.
But he is still there.
And so, what can we expect from Amigo in the future?
I want to say more of the same. A few years back, we tried to dial down the number of novelties we do every year.
Yeah.
Because we noticed in the community that it felt like publishers were trying to outdo themselves with the number of new releases.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to follow that trend. What we did instead is we cut our releases year by year down to now 6 new games in Essen, 6 new games in Nuremberg, because we feel that if we reduce the number of novelties, that we are very much more able to focus on those after the release, to give it the proper marketing support that it needs.
Yeah.
We always do, everybody else does that too. We do trailers, we do little videos, we do rules explanation videos and all stuff like that. But we get 1,200 submissions every year, and we publish maybe 10 to 12 games.
Yeah,
10 maybe come out of those submissions, and then we have a line extension. We do a Wizard dice game, for example. That was obviously not submitted like, hey, why don't you do a Wizard dice game? Well, then again, actually the story was, hey, I have a nice dice game, and then a colleague of mine, Holger, thought like, why don't we do that in the Wizard line? It feels like Wizard. It could be the Wizard dice game. So it became the Wizard dice game. It's great, by the way. So we will try to stay in that line. We will not try to double the number of games we do every year. We feel that 6 per fair is a pretty good number. It's pretty much a sweet spot, and we still would like to focus on, again, something that every publisher will most likely aim to do: new, interesting, intelligent concepts that are not really out on the market already 5 times. But it could also be that it's like, for example, Kaskariert. I don't know if you ever played Kaskariert.
I mean, I haven't played it, but everyone tells me it's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, I'm going to give you a copy later.
Oh, thank
you should play it. It is basically it's a combination of multiple games. You're not allowed to change the order of the cards you have in hand. That is a little bit familiar to Bonanza. Exactly. And then it's something like you play something, and then the next guy in line needs to do one better. It's a little bit like Dalmuti.
Right.
So there's different concepts, but they are mixed in a way that it is simply fantastic. It is so much fun, and there's quite a steep learning curve in there. And I have yet to see anybody who said like, I really despise that game. I don't like it. So it is really a great game. And stuff like that. It not necessarily has to be something completely new, and it's getting tougher and tougher to come up with something completely new.
Right.
But it needs to be good. It needs to be fun. It needs to be intelligent, and it shouldn't take ages to play. We don't do strategy games as abstract strategy games. It's just not what we do. So family games that are fun, that are light-ish. And card games will always be part of our program. So,
brilliant. Well, Bernd Keller, thank you very much for giving me your time.
You're welcome.
So, Essen Day something.
Yes.
At this point, my brain has stopped working. But I'm here with Jason Tatarski of Button Shy Games.
Tagmeyer. Jason Tatarski's my buddy.
Jason Tagmeyer from Button Shy Games, and we've just had a game of Tussie Mussy. So, this is your first Essen?
It is.
And so how have you found it?
Exhausting. I'm probably common, but it's wonderful for me because I came to find international partners, and there's not a lot of English here. There's a lot of German games here. I just saw Spanish games, French games, all these different things that we do not see at Gen Con or Origins or anything in the US.
And so, I mean, how is it? So, has it been easy to facilitate business?
Yes and no. I scheduled a bunch of meetings ahead of time, which was great. There's been a couple impromptu meetings. I didn't reach out to a lot of people. They came to us because we were weird and different and I guess consistent enough that they found out about us. So people came to me and said that they wanted to check us out. I had a couple wonderful meetings. I have a couple more today, and it's been open. Everybody's been very welcoming.
And is Button Shy your proper job now?
It is, for about a year now. We kickstarted Sprawlopolis. I left my real job to do it part-time just before Sprawlopolis to make sure I did all my work. We, instead of rushing a Kickstarter, do everything right. And Sprawlopolis took off. It did $107,000 for a tiny little game. And then I quit the part-time job so I could actually fulfill Sprawlopolis. Right. So from then, it's been about a year and a half. It's all full-time.
And sort of like, how does it, do you feel now stable, confident in the company? Or it's running a company like Button Shy, you're always thinking, will this be happening in 6 months or?
A little bit of that. We've doubled our sales every year for the past 5 years. Next year we will not do that because I think we're hitting a point of a peak of stability, and we've done very well this year, but we're not going to double last year. But the numbers are very good. We do a new Kickstarter not a new Kickstarter, but a new game every month.
Yeah.
We were doing a Kickstarter every month, and Kickstarter stopped allowing that to a degree. They just sort of slowed us down, which made me very nervous about our future, because that's what I counted on. That's how we were going to make a game every month, and that's how we were going to fund it. So that was a little stumbling block, but other than that, we have a consistent base of people that will buy every single game we make, and that's enough to be assured that we should keep going.
I mean, do you have a subscription service?
We do. We have a Patreon where you can get these games and more, and it's all this new content every month. I think we have 700 subscribers on there, that's another one that keeps me sure that this is working.
And so for those who don't know, you will definitely have seen them. They're the games that come in a wallet. And I mean, have you looked into sort of, being in the impulse buy section of the supermarket?
We have talked about that. Yeah, I got a text from somebody that had something just like that, and they were talking to a publisher and said like 2 words, like greeting cards, stuff like that. But absolutely, but our whole model is we hand assemble these games. They cost 4 times what they would cost if we made them in China. The difference is we can make them in 10 days. From the Kickstarter ends, we can have things here almost immediately and start working on them. So our price is too high. We couldn't get them. We can't even sell them to stores at the price we pay. So all of our business is direct to consumer. But it's been an interesting thing with our model is that there's nobody, for the most part, between us and the customer. They have a question, they come to us.
Yeah.
They want more games, they come to us. They ask for suggestions. They want to chat on Discord. It's us to the customer, and it's a very direct relationship where it guides our product line. It enables certain expansions that we know what people want. It's a very personal relationship that is lost at that supermarket and things like that. So it's been working this way.
And so if you're able to maintain eating food and paying rent whilst having this sort of connection, that's kind of the ideal, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's very mom and pop, small business. If it works and it continues to grow, I can employ people that I know that I think are, it allows me to create some jobs, small jobs of assembling games and doing mail. But it feels right to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you just recently published Tussie Mussie, and this is designed by Elizabeth Hargrave, who is now a complete superstar in the world of games, and Wingspan sold 75 million copies and all of this. I assumed you signed it before Wingspan came out?
We did, yeah. I did not know about Wingspan at the time. She entered this into a contest. We did yearly contests that are now monthly contests, which is just insane on its own. But we did a contest for submit your 18-card wallet game. She submitted Tussie Mussie. It was the co-winner because it was us and GenCant together sponsoring the contest, and we both picked a different number 1 and 2. But they were the same games, but just different order.
Oh, okay.
So we decided they're both winners. Tussie Mussie was one of them. I knew of Elizabeth through friends. She's sort of local to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people I knew were in her playtesting videos and stuff, and we picked it up. It's a great game. It did exactly what we wanted. And then I saw Wingspan come on, and I was like, oh no. First of all, it's like, wow, that's amazing. That's going to be great for us to follow that. But I like the controversy of sales models. Like, people were really mad about the distribution model, and I was like, wait till you see ours. It is way worse than that. We don't sell to stores or anything. So yeah.
And has it been? Do you think it's being Elizabeth's second release after the big hit has helped sales?
Oh, it helped. It absolutely helped sales. I even had conversation with her, like, how far do we say like Wingspan in things, and like, because I am so anti-marketing in any way, I would hide it, and it was like, well, we should do enough that it's going to make sense, and they should know about it, and it also enabled a lot of meetings here at Essen where people may know her name but not our games. They know Sprawlopolis, that's our biggest game, but they know Elizabeth as well.
And so I'm asking everyone this over the weekend. It's the sort of hot button topic within gaming at the moment, is the whole Kickstarter union thing. And I've been speaking to publishers, I've been speaking to designers, just about, firstly, kind of your take on it, and how you deal with the fact that it's very likely that you'll have backers who will have to say, sorry, I can't back you now because I disagree with the policies of the company.
Exactly.
I mean, how do you deal with that as a publisher?
It's very hard because we don't exist without Kickstarter.
Right.
So while the Kickstarter workers don't exist without the union, we don't exist without Kickstarter. So it's a very tricky and complicated thing where the best thing that we can do as a company is offer other solutions. If you don't want to use Kickstarter, we 100% understand. We will offer you whatever means to get our game, or even not. If you don't like that we're even using Kickstarter, we totally understand. But if you want an alternative, we have Patreon, which a couple months ago people had problems with Patreon. We lost people, and they said, "What other method?" And everybody's very polite. I want to continue to support you, but I won't support them. What other method can you do? We haven't had anybody say, I won't support you because you're supporting them.
Right.
And I hope that everyone understands that they're so much bigger than us. We sell games direct on our website and sell 1/10 of what we sell on Kickstarter. Yeah. So it's the thing where we would lose our jobs too.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
And so you were the one who put out the call for the 18-card game where every card's
identical.
The same, right?
Yes.
And you put that out, and I started thinking, and I'm not a game designer, but did you get enough response to get a game you're going to publish?
So we received 228 submissions.
Wow.
That's the most we've ever received. You said you're not a game designer, you were thinking about it. So many people, it sparked their first design.
I mean, it's such a compelling idea.
It is, and for us it was a joke. It was we can get one more card on a print run, print that one card, and every 18 decks is another game.
Right.
And it was just a silly thing. When we have an extra card on a print run, let's just add a card. Let's make a new game out of it. Out of the 228, we narrowed down to a top 20. Out of that top 20, they were very good. We played all 20. We had a clear winner, but we only did first place. There's a couple that I would like to offer contracts to.
Did you announce the winner yet?
Tuesday after Gen Con, the winner will be announced, so I don't know when this will be hired.
Tuesday after Gen Con, Tuesday after Essen?
Sorry, Tuesday after Essen, in 3 days.
You can announce it then, because this will be out after that.
Okay, so the winner is a game called Interceptor by and I don't know the name of the designer because we never asked for that, so I just have people's emails, I have their group names. I believe it's a group that designed it because I saw someone tweet it, I'm one of the designers. Interceptor, it's a very cool game where they only used one side of the card. They used half the design space as most people, but it's a game that takes place in the heads of everybody. Its cards are either messages, which is like a little paper airplane, or money. And what you're doing is you're playing in teams of 2, we're across from each other. We are trying to play the same side of the card to each other. We're giving signals. Before the game, you come up with a signal. I flick my glasses. That means I'm playing messages. We whisper this to each other. I scratch my head. That means we're playing the money. The other team's doing the same thing. So we're going to play something. We have to match each other. The other team tries to match us. If we fail to match each other, bad stuff happens. If they fail to match us, bad stuff happens. And if they fail to match each other, even worse stuff happens. So you're doing this while trying to find out their signals. So if I see them touching their glasses, I'm like, I think I know it. So you can cut to the win if you can figure out their signals. Very difficult. It's very stressful in trying to be subtle but obvious to your teammate. So much game in it that doesn't take place in the cards, and that was great. The other thing that they did was the game works really well as identical cards. I can't imagine different cards in the game.
Right.
Which is, so you're going to lose cards and you're going to go through the deck. But the whole point of it is it works really well as identical. Some people jammed a whole bunch of things on a card so it can be twisted in certain ways, which is great, and some cool games have come out of that. But really the spirit of the contest, this one has nailed that.
Yeah.
But I did find other games that I loved, so it'll be great.
Fabulous. Wow. Jason Tagmine. I got it right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you.
So it's the final day at Essen, and I was expecting 4:30 in the afternoon to meet Stephen and for it to feel like it was winding down and there were a few people, but it's still really busy now.
It is
crazy.
Did you tell people who I am, or just the voice? They know that. They just know it.
I didn't do that. Thank you for helping me do my job. Stephen Bonacore, of course, Stronghold Games. Now,
the merged company with Indie Boards and Cards, and we're called Indie Game Studios. Though we maintain both. I am still the president of the brand Stronghold Games.
Right. So, I mean, I guess my first question is this is sort of like a year and a half into the merger. Mm-hmm. So a couple of questions. Firstly, why the merger? And secondly, how has it been working for you?
Go second first. It's been working
fantastically. And then the really like why the merger is because you now are able to have more scale in the company. You're able to hire more people. Like before at Stronghold Games, I didn't have a marketing person per se, but now we bring in a marketing consultant and they are taking care of all of that, which I had to do and my director of art had to do. You know, you can give people specialized hats and they can just do that better. You know, we get better deals with printers and distributors and everybody. So growing a company, especially at this time in the industry, which is in a weird place, there's too much product, there's too many companies, growing a company and growing a brand bigger could really help us in just so many ways.
And I guess Stronghold and Indie Boards and Cards have got strong properties under themselves. I mean, how do you synergize those, and what is, I guess, the character of Stronghold as opposed to the character of Indie Boards and Cards?
Stronghold has always been known to do slightly heavier games and also many licensed games from European publishers.
Right.
Whereas Indie has been known to do, for the most part, smaller games and in-house development. So we're maintaining those brands, and also and their games are also these like the social deduction type games and things like that. So we're maintaining the brands separately, specifically because there are fans of those smaller social deduction games. They're fans of the bigger, heavier Euros that we've brought in on the Stronghold side. That's important to keep that differentiation going. But the back end is where like the synergies really happen.
Right.
In the front end, it's getting games that match a given catalog and the fan base for that logo and for that catalog, versus the back end where we can then really just essentially have the scale and do things to make the company more efficient.
And so, when was Stronghold started? 2011?
10 years ago in 2009.
Oh, 2009.
2009. First game was out by the middle of 2010. And I was here at Essen in 2010. It's the first major convention that we came to. So this is my 10th Essen, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what changes have you seen in that decade? And has the Asmodeification of the market changed anything?
I'm using that one. I like Asmodeification. It's a completely different industry almost. There was no Kickstarter then, right? Kickstarter is such an important, we'll use that word, or dominant force in a lot of ways. The barrier to entry into the industry is negligible because of its influence. Everybody can put a game out there. It's made companies, grow incredibly fast. Kickstarter's barrier of entry is a huge thing that has changed. Asmodee consolidating on a number of different brands. I never would have thought that a company could be $1.5 billion company,
right?
But they just sold to another private equity company for that price. So, I know. So it's Asmodee, of course, and then that's the nice second tier of companies. I like to think for hobby board game companies, we're in that tier, and I think that we're positioned to continue to grow well. And Asmodee has pumped so much money and so much marketing and making games more mainstream. I think the rising tide is floating all boats. Is basically that's the message I'd like to say.
So the market hasn't suffered due to Asmodee acquiring a lot of people?
Certain segments of the market have suffered, like distribution in Europe. Asmodee has bought and bought and bought. So they've got effective, tremendous control of distribution. Now, of course, they're also distributing my games in Europe. So in a lot of the countries. Estevium, which is Asmodee UK, has been around for longer than Asmodee was this octopus.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time. Asmodee bought them before they really became the global entity in hobby gaming that they are now. That was prior to buying Days of Wonder and Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
So in certain segments, and they look like they possibly will, and I have no inside information, be doing some major distribution work, or already been calling themselves a distribution company. They may be doing even more in the US. So that segment and other companies in that segment have, I would say, been hurt. But publishing, I always like to say this about Asmodee and the rest of the companies, right? There's one of them and 1,000 of us.
Right.
So they can only promote themselves so much, and then we're out there too. The gamers have to look and see which one of these entities is what they want to support, which one of these brands. Asmodee or Stronghold, look at that. Or all these other brands. So we're all getting a synergy from the fact that they're pumping so much money into this industry.
And so I've been asking everyone this all weekend because it's the sort of hot button, zeitgeisty topic that people are talking about. And especially since you and Indie Boards and Cards have come together, Indie Boards and Cards was a very Kickstarter-focused company in the way Stronghold wasn't, and I guess that's changed your model slightly. What is the position of a publisher with regards to this current issue with the unionization of Kickstarter? And I mean, how do you feel about certain consumers saying, well, I like your products, I think they're great, but if you go on Kickstarter, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to participate?
That's a very deep question. The easiest way to answer that question is we don't all have all the information about what's going on there. We don't. Right. Neither we do as publishers and users of Kickstarter, nor do gamers who use Kickstarter on the other side. And Kickstarter, who is alleged by some to be union busting.
Well, I think it's fairly clear now the CEO did release a letter explaining that he didn't wish to allow it to happen.
Sure. Most companies will publicly say that we'd rather not have a union, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, well, we'd rather not have a union, and we will do this for our employees instead. But if they organize and go through the right steps to create a union, then they will be allowed to create a union. The part that's the controversy at the moment is that they fired a couple of people who they said who were noted to be part of the organization of the union. Is that true? Those people didn't necessarily now say you should all boycott. They have not created an uproar necessarily.
That's absolutely true. They haven't.
It's so easy to jump on a bandwagon, in my opinion. And before we know everything, we've got I don't know how many people in that company, but before we get out the torches and the pitchforks, why don't we hear from the rest of the people that are interested in doing a union? If they now start it and all of a sudden those people get fired, we get a pattern, and that's something we may all collectively react to. But I am not somebody who's a reactionary, and I will not simply say, oh, absolutely, Kickstarter is an evil company. Well, no, they're not. Let's see all the facts before we demonize anyone. Right? There's an allegation. Give me more facts, and then we'll make a decision. I addressed this, by the way, on my podcast, Board Games Insider, with Stephen Bonacore and Ignacy Chevicek of Portal Games. And I addressed it there too, in that exact kind of way. Yeah. And I think I'm like the only. That news did not even get onto like ICV2, which I thought was really weird. ICV2 is probably the biggest hobby game news, like truly news only. Yeah. They didn't report on it. Tabletop. The other news agency might have. No, they didn't. Tabletop Network, Tabletop Wire. Yeah, I don't think they put it in there either, which I thought was interesting. But I heard about it and I talked about it and I couched it exactly as I said. I'm not going to make a judgment until all of the facts are in, and I think that's fair.
So, I mean, just to wrap up then, where is Stronghold going to be in the next 12 months? What do you have coming out? What's the plans?
The next 12 months, you see that bag right there? That I have all those games in there?
It's huge.
I gotta close it so you don't look in there. But most of what we do, that has not already been announced, of course, because we have releases that are going to go through, the end of the first quarter. So we're already almost 6 months out, a little less than that, of actual planned releases. Some of them are released here, but they won't be out in worldwide or in the US because we got to get them there, and then we have to ensure that we stagger things out. So that's already out there. But what's the new stuff, the unannounced stuff? No comment. or the comment is, we take everything back that we see here, 50 games, give or take, something like that, and we have massive testing sessions. And it's like, no. Ooh, wait a minute. Play. Let's look at this one really deeply. And we do this. A lot of this gets done in 2 weeks at a convention called Metatopia back in New Jersey, where I used to live. designers and publishers, and some people from the outside, the general gamers, they come in and we just show them things. We get feedback, internal Stronghold indie feedback, plus gamers feedback. We make some decisions, then start negotiating with the European publishers or the designers where we took prototypes. And we've got some really interesting things that I think that will be coming out. And everybody wants to hear about Terraforming Mars. We have a very, very, very interesting project in Terraforming Mars for next year. That's all I can say.
And
literally, I can't even tell you another thing about it. It's going to be really big.
You can't even tell me whether it's a standalone game or an expansion.
No.
Is it going to be to do with Mars?
You're a son of a bitch. Yes, it has to do with Mars.
Okay, well, at least I've got something from you.
Terraforming Mars, right? It's in that whole thing, yes.
Brilliant. Well, Stephen Bonnicourt, thank you so much for giving over your time. And
thank you very much.
And I hope you sleep for the next 5 days to get over Essen.
I hope I sleep on a plane on the way home. Let's just start with that.